How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. As you can tell by what's in my hand, I think you know what the video is going to be about, along with the title. So today we are doing a replacement of the rear brakes on the IS300. They haven't been changed throughout the period of my ownership, and as far as I'm concerned, they are the factory rotors and pads. So we're going to go ahead and get those changed out today. So we've got some dynamic friction components slotted rear rotors, along with their 5000 series advanced pads, and I'm super excited to get these things thrown in there. So we're just gonna start diving right into this and knock it out as quickly and efficiently as we can, and go and test the braking and see how much better they perform. I'm really looking forward to it. These old brakes are not the hottest. They've been on their way out for quite some time. They squeak, they squeal, they make noise, and I don't like it. And you know, I'm just looking for something that has a little bit more performance without breaking the bank. I think for both sides, rear pads and rotors, it was only about 230 bucks, which honestly is an incredible price considering that they're slotted rotors and like an advanced performance pad. So I'm super excited to get these thrown in, so let's jump right into it. Just a quick practice that I like to partake in is pulling the cap off of your brake master cylinder and the fluid reservoir and just putting a rag over this, because when replacing brakes, obviously the piston is squeezed in on the existing brakes. You're going to need to kind of separate the piston from itself basically, and you need to kind of pry it back from where it's at to an open position so you can fit full size pads and that new fresh full width rotor in there, in case when you expand the piston for the caliper back outwards, if there is any brake fluid that ends up rising enough to spill over, it's caught by that microfiber and doesn't go all over in your engine bay. Alright, so we're on the passenger side, got the rear wheel off. I don't know how well it's going to be able to focus, but as you can see, these brakes have definitely seen better days. The rotor doesn't look too well. There's a lack of pad life for sure. It's not horrible, but again, it's not great. Could be a lot better. So that's the whole reason that we're here. So let's go ahead and get this old stuff off and replace it with the fresh rotor, fresh pads. So thankfully the rear calipers in the Lexus are fixed and they're not a floating piston or a two-piece assembly like what a lot of modern rear brakes are. So basically all I have to do is pull a little like a retainer cotter pin basically out of this rod. I'll pull that rod out and the old pads slide right out. So I'm going to take care of that really quick. There's that little retaining cotter pin that I was just talking about. Now if we were only replacing the pads, all I would have to do after pulling this little rod out is just pull the old pads out, spread the piston back outwards, slot the new pads in, and call it a day. But since we're replacing this rotor, we are actually going to have to pull the piston, or the caliper off of the bracket, and that way we'll be able to get this old rotor off. So this is one of the old pads. As you can see, it's definitely not horrible, but it has seen better days for sure, and I'm happy to be replacing it with some more fresh ones. And now a lot of the time as well, pads will have an inner and an outer kind of designation. Just by looking around on them right here, it doesn't look like that's the case. There's no inner or outer specified stamping or anything on this old one, so I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that it doesn't matter where they're positioned, which is good. It's a good thing. So now what I'm gonna do is just slot one of these new pads in really quick so that I can pry against the old pad and have this piece of the piston stay in place. Alright, so I got the piston completely spread apart. Here's the outer edge of our old pads and the inner edge. So there's both pads out for this rear section. Now I can pull the fresh pad out again, set this aside, and now that we've got the piston completely spread apart from the caliper, now you can see there's the inner edge of the piston and the outer edge is tucked into the caliper right there. So basically now we've got space for the brand new thicker pads and a new thick rotor to go in here, and everything will slot in and fit just right. So let's go ahead and get this caliper off. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple stuff. Nothing super crazy. Oh, okay. Is now free. We don't want to put stress on the brake line. Actually, that's perfect. That just sits right on top of the upper control arm. That's great. What's up? Welcome back. It is the next day. So after putting the camera down yesterday, I tried for probably about 45 minutes on both sides to break these rotors loose. I don't know how long ago they were replaced, but it was long enough ago that the rotors were completely, and when I say completely, I mean like I hit this thing probably a solid 20 to 30 times with my metal hammer, and this thing still would not break loose. It was like completely and totally rusted to the surface of the hub, like totally seized on there. And this wasn't just the passenger side where I've been working, it was the driver's side too. I gave up after a little while on the passenger side and I said, you know what, it's not working, let me try the driver's side, see if that's any better. Exact same thing. So what I ended up doing was taking one of our other cars to a store right up the street, and I bought 2 cans of PB Blaster, blasted the ever-living shit out of both sides, in the studs, in the little holes in the rotor, on the back side, like everywhere that I could possibly think it would be able to penetrate that rust and get through to the back side of the rotor. And thankfully, just now, like I said, it's the next day. It's been almost a full 24 hours since I did that. I finally came out. I just tried to give it a couple little wiggles with my hand, still nothing. Tried prying at it, which I was trying yesterday, still absolutely nothing. So I got fed up with it, smacked it a couple really good times on either side with the hammer, and it finally broke loose. Here we've got this hub. As you can see, it's definitely rusted, for sure seen better days. Old rotor is finally out. Finally can drop a new one in. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all that stuff ready, and I will put the new stuff together real quick. All right, so I've got the new rotor here for my OCD purposes. I'm having the slots facing forward. Usually what you'd want to do is take some brake part cleaner and clean off your new rotor, because usually they have a slight thin film of oil or some kind of grease to keep them from rusting during shipping and handling process. I don't have brake parts cleaner, but brake parts cleaner does have alcohol in it to act as a drying agent. So I just took some rubbing alcohol on this clean microfiber, just give the surface a quick wipe down. I want to make sure that there isn't any grease on there, because obviously that will inhibit the braking ability. I want to make sure that you hit the inside of the drum as well, because that's where our e-brake sits. Now we just drop this right here. There we go. Fresh rotor. I'm gonna go ahead and get the caliper bolted up, and I'll drop the new pads in and show you guys what's up there. All right, so we've got it fully reassembled now. We've got a multi-piece system here, which unfortunately is not the greatest design, if I've got to say so myself. Small, tiny little piece of metal with this little tiny retaining clip. It's this right here. So that retaining clip sits in the top 2 portions of the brake pads. Then over the top of that retaining clip, we've got this whole little bracket that has to loop through the retaining clip. Then once you have all that done, you have to press down on the center of the hardware bracket right there and slot the pin through the caliper, the pads, and that bracket, which is a giant pain in the ass. We're solid, so the last thing to do for this side now is literally just to pop this little dust cap on to the rotor. This side is complete. I put some blue thread locker on the 17s on the back, and I got them nice and tight. And there we go, there is one side completed. Got this side off finally. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing here. The rotor is on. quick, I want to show you guys how bad these old pads were. This was the inner pad, which usually is the bad one, but this one was actually not the worst. The outer pad was damn near metal to metal. You can see how low that is. All right, so I went inside, got all cleaned up, and changed the battery in the camera because it was about to die. There we go, man. That looks a million times better. Literally, the only visual difference is some lines and slots in the brake rotors, but it looks really good. I'm excited to go drive it. So now we got to go bed the brakes. Since they're new parts, you need to basically kind of mesh them together. So I'm just gonna drive it around for a couple minutes. I'm gonna bed these brakes in real quick, get them nice and set together. Just like that. I'm sure you guys might have heard there is still like the slightest little sound that indicates a rub. It's not actually a rub. There's a piece of the fender liner that just pokes out a tiny bit under really harsh braking, like what you just witnessed right there. That little piece catches on the tire. So yeah, it sounds bad for sure. Nothing to worry about. I love the way that this thing drives. Those brakes feel great. I will tell you right now, they feel great. They're not squeaky, they're not noisy, which is the best part at the current moment, and that's what I'm super happy about. That is all that's making noise, that's all that sound is. So it sounds bad, but really it's just a piece of plastic. Looks awesome with the fresh rotors in there. It stops great, it feels great. Super happy with the way that it turned out. It was really unfortunate how difficult it was to get those rotors off, the old rotors. Use a lot of PB Blaster. And don't be afraid to use a hammer if it's necessary. The amount of brake dust that I already see building up in those grooves and the slotted portions of the rotor is crazy. Apparently these are fairly dusty, so that's unfortunate for the fact that I've got white wheels. You know, you gotta pay to play. Anyway, that's all you guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. Stay tuned for the next one because the next video is gonna be the start of the manual swap series. I started taking some pieces apart. I ended up pulling the rear housing of the transmission off yesterday, and I swapped out the old shifter housing and striker rod for the new extended ones from DefWorks. It's been leading up to it for a very long time, and I'm really excited to finally get it underway. Can't wait, man. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you when we start tearing this thing apart to make it 5-speed. All right, thank you guys. Shoots.